Please welcome Mary N. Dillon, Chief Executive Officer, Ulta Beauty.
Thank you for being here. I am thrilled to be here. It feels like old home week. So many of my friends that I see here, so many of you who attended my general manager's conference and now know my mother really well too. So thank you for those of you who met her and made her feel comfortable. So I've heard there's been an amazing morning. I just got in this afternoon, so I'm excited to speak to you after lunch. What I'd like to do today is cover a few things. One is a little bit of an update on the Ulta Beauty story. So Dave Kimball is here. I think many of you know Dave Kimball, our head of marketing, merchandising, e-commerce, store design, you name it. And Dave spoke last year and talked a little bit about our view of the beauty industry and how it's evolving. So I know probably many of you know a lot about Ulta Beauty already, but I can't resist doing a little bit of update on our story. And then talk a little bit about, I'm sure, a topic I know you guys have already been thinking about and talking about today, which is the factors and forces that are changing the world at such a rapid pace. But how do we see that in terms of its impact on retail? How do we see that in terms of what it means for the beauty category in particular? And then just a couple of thoughts about what we're looking at as we move ahead. And then, of course, open it up to Q&A. All right. So I think, again, maybe most folks here know about Ulta Beauty, but I like to say we're a 27-year-old company that many people in some ways have just discovered. And I feel like we're just getting started. But what's really cool is that I inherited a business model that was founded on some exceptional insights. And so these are core to what we are, what we do, and continue to be important to our future. So real estate locations that are largely off-mall, convenient for shoppers to get to, a product mix. We are the only beauty retailer that really does what we call all things beauty all in one place in terms of categories and price points. And of course, services. So I like to say to my board of directors, I know if I came to you with this great idea to rip out a big section of the store and put a hair salon in the back, starting that from scratch, you'd all probably think we're a little crazy. Well, guess what? The fact is that we started that at Ulta Beauty from the very start. So the fact that we have hair services and skin services and brow services, makeup services is a really core part of what we're all about. So 3 core insights that we're building on. We've had a great track run. And I have to say, this might be a little self-serving. It goes back to 2013, but we've been growing for a long time. But in the last 4 years, I'm really proud that we've posted, top line CAGR of 22%. We finished last year with an almost 16% comp on top of over an almost 12% comp the prior year. And of course, our EPS continues to grow. So we'd like to think we're a great investment. And also, of course, our store base is just continuing to grow. So 2017, we just announced our first quarter a couple weeks ago. So it's always that cycle, right? Always moving on to the next quarter. But we're really proud about the results. We're off to a really strong start. Again, with top line strength, 14.3% comp. What's great about it is we saw strength across all parts of our business. Our stores, our salon, which was up almost 10%, and our e-com business, which was up 70%. Our operating margin leveraged somewhat in the quarter, which is good. And then we delivered earnings per share growth, which was a little bit outsized because of some accounting changes that are really exciting that I won't get into right now. But even if you took those tax benefits out, we'd still be over a 30% EPS growth. I can't talk about Ulta Beauty without touching for a minute on these slides, which is really a foundation of how we think about the business each and every day. I know that my colleagues, Dave and others in the company would agree with me. There's not a day that goes by that we are not somehow connecting and talking about, are we really delighting our guests? Talking about our mission about creating careers. And talking about our values, and are we really living up to our values each and every day? And so much of what I focus on is making sure that I find examples of times that we're doing things that are, for example, around collaboration or win together. How we improve always, finding things that are working and how do we make them better. Making sure that we really set up our associates to prove how much they love what they do. Really doing things the right way. So this is core to who we are, and I believe it's part of what's really driving our success is that across myself, my leadership team, their leaders, all the way to our store associates, we really bond together through the lens of these values. I know a lot of companies talk about it. I actually think that I'm proud about the fact that my team really lives this way. So in speaking about one part of the mission that I just want to talk about that I find kind of interesting, at this stage of my career, you can imagine it's very cool to be running a company that's really creating a lot of jobs in the US and a lot of jobs for women. So we have over 34,000 associates right now, 92% are women. We love men too, so it's all cool. But it's, largely it's a women company. And so we have created, it's even astounding to me that just since 2013, 16,000 new jobs in the US because of our store growth and our distribution center growth and our headquarters growth. And you can imagine I'm very focused on making sure that we promote internally as much as we can. And so many women, if you go into any one of our stores, I'm sure you're going to meet somebody who can tell you a story about starting out as an hourly associate, a cashier, and becoming a general manager, or a district manager, a salon manager. So that's just kind of a cool part about our story that I'm particularly proud about. And then lastly, just in terms of setup, I would say this is just a slide that captures in one snapshot what we call really our strategic planning pillars. And we put this together back in 2014, and it really guides us as we think every day. And I know those of you who work with us know that we think through this lens all the time. And it's working for us. So these are strategy pillars that aren't about a function. They're about an integrated view of the enterprise, an integrated view of the guests, and making sure that we take these strategies and continue to improve on them each and every day. And importantly, the foundational piece is really about our talent. And I'm proud about the fact that I really think we've got a culture that's about values, but also winning. You know, doing two things at once, winning in the marketplace, but doing it in a way that we're quite proud of. So, retail evolution. Anybody talking about this morning? Hopefully I can add some additional perspective. I know this is the big focus for all of us, right? But just a couple of thoughts I guess I would share. You know, I mean, there's a lot of smart people in this room, so we're all thinking about many of the same things. You know, two additional perspectives. One is I think about all this through the lens of the beauty category. I'm also on the board of Starbucks, so it's interesting for me to see how that business is evolving through this. You know, the first force and factor I would just talk about is the changing consumer. I don't need to educate this room about this, but it is in real time, probably the most, you know, I've been a student of consumer insight and consumer behavior driving actions ever since I started in my career in consumer packaged goods in 1980 something. But I've never seen things changing as fast as they are right now in the last 5 years, and as we look out into the future. So millennials, Gen Z, Hispanics, multicultural, the factors that you all know about. But there truly is like a multiplication of trends that are happening all at once that are all quite interesting and different. And I would say at just the highest level, companies just really need to be very nuanced about their understanding of the different cohorts and what it means for their business. So the changing consumer, I'll come back to that for us, a huge factor. You know, new patterns of personal consumption. So the notion of immediacy, you know, that's probably the biggest thing that's ever happened with Amazon is the expectation now that things should be immediate and free, right? And that's not going to ever change. So immediacy, convenience, demand for personalization. I mean, I can remember really not that long ago that there was sometimes some debate about, you know, would consumers accept having people know their data, their personal consumption data, and offer them things. You know, that was kind of quaint in retrospect when you think about it, because people opt in and they want that. They want us to know where they are and how we can make things more relevant for them. And I know we've talked about this, but the focus on experiences, which I think is really the big aha and possibly the real opportunity for all of us. The consumer is really empowered, so they are in charge more than ever. I'd say they're the boss of us. And again, I think companies that can focus the most, I guess in the cleverest way, on consumer insight and also foresight, and how can you use that to help drive your business strategies. The third factor is around the disruption of technology that's happening all the time, and again, creates unprecedented opportunity for every business that we operate in. So the Internet of Things, you know, autonomous vehicles, artificial intelligence, even just crowdsourcing. You know, think about this for the beauty industry. I've never seen an industry that is more entrepreneurial and more full of dynamic innovation than beauty. And the combination of technology and that dynamic, powerful force, I think, is huge for us. And so adapting to advanced technologies in your business is so important, but it also has to be done in a way that's on the right terms. You know, we use a phrase like, we just don't go chasing after every bright, shiny object, because it's easy to do that. We think very hard about where do we invest our dollars through technology in a way that's going to really advance the experience that we're trying to deliver at Ulta Beauty. And then lastly, and I know you guys heard from Mike at QVC this morning, you know, the whole notion of structural industry shifts, it's real. I mean, it's cool. The whole direct-to-consumer model, sharing economy. We should expect the continued consolidation of businesses, morphing of industries, and really the blurring of the boundaries between retailer and manufacturer. And I think to compete, at least the way that we're thinking about it, is we have to create our own really disruptive business models. We have to think about our business. I'm proud about what we're delivering. I'm confident about our ability to continue to grow, but I'm never complacent. In fact, we're a little paranoid, right, Dave, about thinking about, so what does this look like 5 years, 10 years from now, so that our business model as we know it today continues to be relevant, but how do we use technology to continue to advance it? So with all of the things that are happening and the changes that are happening, I think at the fastest rate ever, there's a lot written about Ulta Beauty as like one of the, quote, only retailers that's opening up stores, which is, not true. But there's a big change and disruption happening in retail, right? So we know there are a lot of store closures that have been announced. Certainly everybody knows that. And I'm sure there's more to come. But there's plenty of retailers that are opening stores. And sometimes, I like the fact that we're not an anomaly, because if it felt like it was, something that was unique to one company, you'd be like, well, does that make sense? Well, there's plenty of companies that are opening stores, and to understand sort of what's behind it, I think, is what's very important, right? So here's just a few examples, right? So TJ Maxx, Ross, Starbucks, Dollar General, AutoZone, others like Walmart, Costco, Tractor Supply, Hobby Lobby, Sprouts. These are all retailers that are opening stores all across the US. We tend to often be in co-locations with them. And so the question is really, so why are these retailers opening? Thinking about what's working, sometimes it's just as important as what's not working, right? And there's kind of a thread, I'd say, it has to do with category, and I'll talk about the beauty category in a minute. Sometimes it has to do with just plain old convenience. The ease of being able to, if you're in a convenient location, that certainly helps versus if you're not. Necessity. I mean, there's plenty of people in American society who aren't Amazon Prime users, who don't even have the internet home, who are shopping at Dollar General. So there's necessity that's driving some retail for sure. And as well as things like AutoZone. I mean, last time I checked, if you need to get your car fixed, you got to drive it someplace and somebody's got to do something with it, right? So there's reasons why there are retailers that are opening stores. But I'd say lastly, it's also about connection, about places that people actually want to be and want to connect. So I would say for retailers, how do you think about what's going to be the driver for why your bricks and mortar can grow, and how does that dovetail with what you have to have happen elsewhere? So here's a couple of the concepts for us. So digital, of course. So it's not like bricks and mortar is not going to have its challenges. It does, because digital is certainly surrounding everything in the world that we operate in. You guys all know this, right? It's the center of every experience that we have. Digital tools underpin everything that happens in commerce at all. And certainly the whole e-commerce, business size is booming, and that's going to certainly continue. But that said, I guess what I would say we believe, and I'm sure others here do, that perhaps because of this, perhaps maybe even an increasing fashion, there is a need for human experiences that are physical in nature as well. Everybody remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs back in high school, from the safety security rung to self-actualization. But I mean, there's something real about that. So, when you think about it, you can have needs that are very much physical, like literally eating and drinking, which I think humans still have to do in a human format. But everything from that to, well, perhaps I want to touch and smell and feel something. Perhaps I need my hair cut. Perhaps I want to smile with somebody. Perhaps I want somebody to touch me, or perhaps I want to make a real connection. There are real human dynamics involved that I think we cannot lose sight of, because they can be extremely relevant. And for retailers who can understand how to maximize and understand those insights, it's really a sweet spot that I think can help accelerate growth. You think about Starbucks, for example, they created that third place. And so even though Starbucks' fastest growth right now is on the mobile order and pay and the drive-through, they're still building stores. Why? Because try to go into a Starbucks in a busy location or on a college campus, you can't get a seat. Because even though people, sometimes they're sitting there on their headphones, they want the human connection of being with other people. So how do we anticipate, imagine, innovate with this human connection concept as a challenge and as a premise for all of us? Well, the good thing is, the beauty industry is a great place for this. When you think about it, from the physical to the sensory, services that are done by human hands, emotional experiences. I can't tell you the number of letters that I read from guests and from associates about transformative things that have happened in our stores. because of the human connection and perhaps the interaction and often the service that happens. So beauty is a great place to be, and we focus on this segment of the beauty shop we call the beauty enthusiasts. Thank God there's a lot of them, and they're growing. So let me just show you a little video to give you a sense of how we define and think about our core target at Ulta Beauty. You guys can show the video.
She's our biggest cheerleader, our muse, our BFF. Meet Gwen, Jasmine, Alejandra, say hello to Caitlin, and Stephanie, Steph to her friends. She's not just one person. She's every woman who gets beauty butterflies. To her, beauty is pure joy, pure play, and just plain fun. If she's not out shopping for beauty, she's talking, texting, tweeting, blogging, watching, or reading about it. If she could date beauty, she would. It's what her friends always say. Who needs boys when you have Benefit, Bare Minerals, big sexy hair, and buxom? Yep, she's the girl who must get her hands on one of the newest sparkly palettes. Or 2. Or 5. She doesn't have just one signature lip. She mixes it up with mattes and glosses, crayon stains, and long wears oh my. She has BB cream, CC cream, and everything in between. And at her fingertips, she has all the right tools. But she's always on the lookout for the next big thing. Take a peek inside her makeup bag and you'll see she loves it all, from tried and true to trendy. From the must-haves to the absolutely positively I really shouldn't, but I'm gonna haves. Her beauty agenda? To play, reinvent, explore, discover. In a place that welcomes her with the warmest, pinking of you, semi-gloss smile. And because we're the only destination with all things beauty all in one place, we'll make sure Gwen, Jasmine, Alejandra, Caitlin, and Steph get exactly what they want.
So, and that's all about what I call the psychographics of the category, right? It's not about the demographics, it's about the mindset. And the great thing is we've studied this deeply. Dave and his team have a fantastic combination of insights and analytics folks, right? Understanding the core human insights and translating that into actionable data. But the great thing is the beauty enthusiast is 57% of the shoppers in beauty in the US, but almost 3/4 of the sales, and they're growing. This is a good thing, right? So we have to look at the future. So as we study millennials, Latinas, and teens, it's all great in terms of forward momentum for the beauty category. So, millennials, I just love the fact that in 10 years, their income is going to be greater than Gen X and baby boomers combined. So they're growing and they're going to be spending. Latinas, very important core focus for us. Right now, 1 in 6 Americans is Hispanic. By 2050, it's going to be 1 in 3 Americans. So Latinas, and they're very engaged in the beauty category. And then, of course, teens. I'm sure a lot of people have teens here. I sort of still do. And it's all about the social and how they're going to empower the future. So all of these groups over-index in beauty, which is fantastic for us as we think about the future. So just, bottom line, maximizing these insights about the category and the consumer for us is where it's at Ulta Beauty, and I'm sure for many of you as well. So how are we going to focus ourselves? The experiential nature, we're building 100 stores a year. We have just under 1,000 right now. We've communicated that we see a range of up to 1,400 to 1,700 stores in the future. We're confident about that because of the experiential nature and the fact that we're very confident that beauty enthusiasts want this experience. So whether you're coming there to shop or ending up getting really filled with confidence or fun or just a transformative experience, we're going to be continuing to focus on how do we raise our game there. But of course, surrounding it with everything digital, right? So we're doing 2 things at once, being bricks and mortar, being a great digital retailer, everything from the whole journey through in-store and how she books online is a core part of how we're evolving our business. Strengthening e-commerce, so obviously that's huge. We feel really good about our e-commerce growth and performance. We've invested a lot in the last couple of years on our supply chain to improve the delivery times, and we've had dramatic improvements and continue to have a great year. Like I said, a 70% growth in the first quarter of this year alone. A world-class loyalty program, which really sews it all together. So it's a lot of people, 24.5 million people, and we grew at just 25% just in the last quarter alone, year over year. So our Ultimate Rewards program is driving over 90% of our sales, and it really is the place that we bring it all together in terms of our insight about her. But as we look ahead, there's just 2 last slides, and I'm going to start taking some questions. But like everybody, you've got to continue to invest in how you're going to disrupt, as I said, disrupt yourself digital and technology innovation to just continually make this experience better and better. So we think about this entire guest journey. It's a fairly simple little view of a lot of work that's happening behind the scenes. And we think this investment in this part of the journey is never going to stop, right? So there's a store build-out type investment, but as she's thinking about the categories, she's doing her research, as she's making it easier to pay, and also easier for her to give us feedback. So we're going to continue to invest in that throughout our business. And lastly, I would say, and this is like a topic for another time if we want to get into it, but the other thing we're going to continue to do is something I've touched on a little bit, which is making sure that my leadership team and our culture stays at the heart of how we think about this business. Because it is, at the end of the day, a really big people business, people serving people every day. And we study our culture, like many of you do, I'm sure. And now this year, we're just in the throes of starting our 4th culture survey. But I'm really proud about the fact that the engagement of our associates in our stores is at 80%. 80% of people in our whole company, not just our stores, but largely it's people working in the stores, 80% of them are highly engaged in working for Ulta Beauty. And that compares to 72% retail norm. We're in the top quarter of all companies studied globally with the survey that we do at Blessing White, which is huge. So really proud about that. And obviously that pays back dividends as it relates to how our guests feel. And then lastly, our leadership. I really expect my team and the folks on their teams and throughout the company to be able to think through 3 lenses all the time. This business is complex. It's not driven by just one function. It's about how can you bring your functional expertise to the table, how can you lead through the enterprise lens, and collaborate. And this is core to what we do every single day too. And so we can have all sorts of strategies and analytics in the world, but if we don't work together in smart, functional, enterprise-leading, collaborative ways, I don't believe we'll be able to face the challenges. But because I'm confident about this is something we're going to continue to focus on as well. So with that, in a nutshell, there was a lot, but now let's turn it over to questions. I think it's time for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Over here.
Yes.
So we polled the audience while you were speaking and asked them
now you tell me.
Yes. This has been a running gag. But of how long until Ulta overtakes Sephora in prestige. And the results are 33% said 1 year, 44% said 3 years, and 23% said never. Is the majority right?
Now, why did you ask that question? I don't even think that's the right question. I'm not even kidding you.
What's the right question?
Well, listen, the beauty category is big and growing in the U.S. And honestly, there is room for a lot of players who are playing it smart. So the overtaking thing isn't really the way that I think about it, honestly. Because first of all, we're never going to be all just about prestige. We're going to be prestige and mass and services and hair. And there's an opportunity for all boats to rise. So I'm sure there's people here from Sephora. It's not like we don't look at them as a really hardy competitor, but that's not really my goal. Is that all right, Dave? Would you agree with that? Yeah, that's not really my goal. So good question, but next. All right, now you're going to pick a really hard one. Okay, go.
Well, there have been a number of questions about the balance between your owned brands and third-party brands. What's the strategy there?
Yeah, well, that's an easy one. Our own brands are a pretty small part of our business. We have a brand called the Ulta Beauty Collection that I'm so proud of. If anybody of you have seen it, it's really evolved in the last few years into a really, really high quality, awesome brand with innovation. But it's only about 5% of our sales. We love exclusives. Did I mention that? And we have some great partnerships with some exclusives like the Ulta It Brush Collection. But most of our products are not owned brands, and most are not exclusive. So we love getting things early and having our own set of products to sell. But generally, our guest wants to come and get things that she's either heard about or wants to discover. It's either a brand she's known and loved or it's just discovered on social media.
And then there's also been a number of questions on what new services you're planning on bringing.
Well, I'd say with the launch of MAC, and we're very excited about that, we're going to really raise our game in makeup artistry. We do makeup today, but it's not really something we're known so much for. We've got still a lot of folks, our service business is really only used by about 6% of our loyalty members today in total. So we know there's a lot of opportunity for us to get folks in to try. So skin services by Dermalogica and brow services by Benefit, still lots of runway there, and our hair salon. And we're always looking at new opportunities for services. So I'm sure we'll do more, we'll innovate in that area. but we don't have anything else launched yet.
Anything directly from the audience?
Very good, Mary.
Thanks, Pete.
Could you discuss possibly any thoughts that you have about international expansion?
Yeah, we think about that, and as we think multi-years out, there's a possibility of it. I'm not in any hurry right now because our U.S. opportunity is so strong. And I also know how easy it is for companies to get a little bit off kilter, like other companies that I've been in, if you try to do too many things at once. That said, we would look at it through the lens of, is the category environment right, the consumer competitive environment? We're looking at opportunities. We think there probably are some, but I don't have anything to announce yet because we're laser focused on the U.S. Yes.
First of all, congratulations on great performance and great
Thank you.
presentation. When you look at retail broadly, very broadly, what you see, not always, but now increasingly, is success is coming to people who own the brands and sell them direct to consumer. And we're seeing a lot of failure among retailers who sell other people's brands for lots of reasons. So as you look at the future of your business, do you see that happening in beauty? Do you think that it'll become important for you to have your own brands and to communicate in that way directly to your customer? And if yes, if no, why is beauty so different?
All right, should I start from the beginning? Just kidding. No, I mean, I would say that's kind of the premise of what I've been saying, is that I think that we're certainly very cognizant of the factors and forces that are affecting retail, but there are examples of retailers that have a very good reason to have a physical presence like ours, because our shopper likes to go in person to touch, feel, and try the products. She also likes to buy online. That's very incremental. She has to come in to get services. And while we have some owned products, our guest isn't coming for only that. So over time, would we love to have more exclusive type products? We might. Will never be the majority of what we do, I don't think. Because at its core, you kind of have to buy the category consumer insight part of this. That's hard sometimes for people to understand. But if we study this beauty enthusiast very deeply, in this going and having a physical in-person experience, I don't think that's going to change. It's a human thing for this category, for the shopper. Now, do we make it more interesting, exciting, and easy, and more seamless all the time? We have to stay relevant. So I think that's the way we think about it for beauty, and we're confident about that. But we constantly have our radar up. Okay. All right.
Any other questions?
Okay. Oops, one more. Scott. I feel like I can call in the class here. I like it.
So when I looked at that first question, which I didn't understand very well, but what I really wanted to know is is there a migration? Are customers that come in that start to buy maybe in the mass side, are they over time converting to prestige or higher price point items, and are they shopping both?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Certainly, we know that the prestige segment, looking at color cosmetics, is growing faster than mass, although both are growing. And we see in our own data that, somebody will come in and start more with a mass basket and then evolve over time to more of adding more prestige items. But again, there's a huge segment of shoppers, like the beauty enthusiasts, the folks we focus on, who really like the ability to mix up the price points in the brand. So there's always going to be a segment of shoppers who only want prestige, and that's fine. But when you think about it, everybody has a certain amount of money to spend in every category of things they shop. So I'm proud about the fact that we're going to be able to give her the option to have that great mix, even though over time she will mix up more to prestige. And we see that happening, which is great for the category and the industry.